So Biggie D asked the question. As a solo player for World of Warcraft, I've mostly avoided raids and dungeons because it isn't for me. Do you raid with a group? Can you fully enjoy WoW without raiding or having to do huge dungeons? So, this is a great conversation before we start our No Man's Sky stream today. First and foremost, modern World of Warcraft is entirely a solo gameplay experience if you're playing on the retail servers. It has optional group content, which includes heroic dungeons, mythical dungeons, heroic raids, and mythic raids. They have done great strides in the past 12 months to ensure that the solo player can still complete the dungeons and the raids without needing to worry about other people. They have a very robust looking for dungeon and looking for raid system, which allows new players to join up with other people to do things on the easiest difficulty ever. But the new expansion that's coming in a few short weeks, called the War Within, it takes that up a step further. So we now have follower dungeons, which means you as a solo player can go into a dungeon. This has been in since about, I think, March or April. You can go into a dungeon in anything Dragonflight or above, and the game scales that dungeon to you and adds people to your party. They're NPCs. So if you go in with 2 people or 3 people, it pulls however many people are necessary, however many NPCs are necessary, it adds to your group. If you go in by yourself, it adds 4 NPCs to your party of different classes that surround your class. So you can do the dungeons completely solo on story mode. Coming in the War Within are a new series of dungeons called Delves, which are scaling. It's you and an NPC, and you can go in with, I think, up to 3 people. Then in the War Within, shortly after the launch of War Within, they are adding story mode for raids, which means you'll be able to go into a raid by yourself or with a couple of your friends and complete the raids on story mode without needing to rely on anybody else. So the second part of your question is what's getting answered first. Can you fully enjoy World of Warcraft without raiding or having to do huge dungeons? You can if you want to, but if you want to get 100% of the storyline, you can still do dungeons and you can still do raids, and you could choose to do those in the new expansion by yourself, or you can choose to use the looking for dungeon or the looking for raid matchmaking system, which puts you into a queue where you join up with other randos, and it's on super easy mode. No mechanics are necessary to know. For the most part, you could run around and not need to know a lot of what's going on. There are some fights where you'll need to know a little bit of the mechanics, but for the most part, anybody can go do it without any previous knowledge or anything else. The other part about that, do I raid with a group? I do. We have a guild on the Moonguard server. We raid on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central. Those are streamed here on my channel as a general rule. Our guild is called Risen. We have a very tight-knit community. We are currently closed to recruitment, but we will be bringing new people into the fold over the coming months as we flesh out our raid force for the War Within. We do not raid on heroic mode or mythical mode. We raid on normal mode, which is a step up in difficulty from the story mode. It's just the normal mode. It's very casual, very laid back. But there are different tiers of progression in World of Warcraft. So if you want to play the game and raid hardcore, you could do mythical difficulty, or you could do heroic difficulty, or you can do no difficulty at all and just do it on story mode. It really is for the perspective of the solo player these days, and the latest expansion coming out this fall called the War Within is taking that up a step further with the introduction of story raids and delves on top of the existing follower dungeons, which allow the single player the ability to go in and still see 100% of the story content, 100% of the cutscenes. You just won't get all the achievements that you would get from going and doing it with other players. So there is that caveat, is that the achievements are tied to doing things with other players. So hopefully that answers your question regarding World of Warcraft. Necro said I would add most MMOs are solo. It's focused these days. Yep, I actually just have this conversation with somebody about EverQuest 2. I have a video going live tomorrow talking about EverQuest 2 in the modern era, how it's very much a solo RPG. You don't need to group with other players. It's 100% optional. Danielle says, been really wanting to get into WoW recently. Think I might try it when the expansion drops, or should I start playing now as a new player? Wait until the new expansion drops, because Well, I mean, you could get going now. Here's the caveat. I would say this: if you get going now and you've never played before, you're going to be in a rush to get a new character to cap before the expansion drops, and the expansion starts on the 26th. That may or may not be enough time for you. There is an event that starts on the 30th of this month and runs until the expansion drops. I think it's called Radiant Heart or something, where you're going to be able to participate in an event, get tokens, use those tokens to buy gear, and you can get gear for a character that will then be ready to go straight into the War Within. But if you haven't played before, I would highly recommend just, you know, waiting 3 weeks or whatever until the War Within is live, and then buy the game and get going from there. It's going to be a really good expansion. Biggity says, "Wow, that sounds absolutely incredible. I haven't played this year or any of Dragonflight." Oh, well, if you haven't played Dragonflight, that's the big changer, man. Because Dragonflight was when they introduced follower dungeons earlier this year, and they really refined the looking for raid, looking for dungeon part to make it super accessible to the solo player to go in and do dungeons on their own, to not need to rely on other people, and they've made it even more solo friendly with the War Within, which is launching here in a few weeks. Will it still drop epic or close to epic gear? Not on solo mode. Solo mode, not in dungeons and raids anyway. If you want the epic rewards, you have to go do the raids. But also, the delves that are coming, the delves are a new form of dungeon in World of Warcraft that allows players to earn raid level gear grinding in this new delve system. So you will be able to get epic level gear through the delve system, which again is solo, or it can be run with, I think, with up to 3 people, I think. But it's the small little 15-minute bite-sized pieces of content, but you will be able to earn epic level rewards from that. But if you want the best tier rewards, the best raid gear, the best heroic, you're going to have to raid at heroic and mythical levels, or do dungeons at heroic mythical levels, and those cannot be done solo. You will need to, I would recommend finding a good group of people to play with at that point, because if you're trying to do heroics and mythicals through random looking for group stuff, matchmaking, that could be a recipe for disaster, because not everyone is a good player. You're welcome. I would highly recommend it. It's a great game. It's the only MMO that I sub to right now. And I had never really played World of Warcraft until the beginning of this year, late last year. I dabbled a little bit here and there, played some Classic, but never really played retail. But I'm loving it. Honestly, the game, I didn't realize how much Star Wars: The Old Republic had taken from World of Warcraft until I played World of Warcraft retail, and then I went, oh shit. Like, everything that Star Wars: The Old Republic does well is from World of Warcraft. Like, the scaling dungeons, the matchmaking system, like, all the cutscenes. It was, yeah, if you've played Star Wars: The Old Republic, World of Warcraft retail feels a lot like the same thing, the way they've done it. Big fan. Can't wait for the whole World Soul saga, because that's what's about to kick off. Is a trilogy of expansions. They're all about one storyline, which is pretty much what we're all about.